Hi, today we are going to be creating this simple but very powerful dashboard. The dashboard will be created in 4 simple steps. First, we will set up the dashboard structure. Second, we will analyze all the data using pivot tables. Third, we will create all the key KPI visuals and tables. Finally, we will make everything dynamic using slicers. So let's get into it. Step 1. Structure. We are going to set up the dashboard tab. Stretch the first column, column A, to a width of 25 by selecting the column, right-clicking and choosing column width. Make this 25. This will serve as your side header or space for navigation links. Fill column A with a different color to set a unique tone for your dashboard. This will be the main header area. Go to the View tab and uncheck the grid lines options. This will provide a cleaner and more professional appearance, which is ideal for a polished dashboard. Go to the Insert tab, click on Shapes, and select a rectangle shape. Draw a tall rectangle on the left side of the dashboard from column B to D and rows 1 to 7. This will be your title area. Have the rectangle filled with a dark color and remove the outline by selecting No Outline in the Shape Format options. Apply a shadow effect by selecting Shape Effect, Shadow, and Outer. This will add depth to your design. For KPI boxes, create smaller rectangles and stack them vertically below the title area. Use a lighter contrasting color like a soft blue for these shapes. I would also have the outline removed. We're going to have 4 KPIs in our dashboard, so let's duplicate this by simply copying and pasting, and have them stacked vertically below the title area. Adding text boxes for titles, so click on Insert again, Text Boxes, and place a text box within the title area. Type in your dashboard title, such as Sales Team Performance Overview, or something specific to your data context. Have the text formatted by selecting a unique font. Increase the font size and change to a white color or a color that contrasts well with your background. I will remove the fill in the text box to make the text visible. Also remove the outline and make this bold. Repeat this process for each KPI box, labeling them according to the metrics they will display, such as total revenue, units sold, average deal size, and operating margin. To make the KPI stand out, consider adding small icons or symbols within the KPI boxes that relate to the metric. You can use icons from Excel's built-in icon library by going to the Insert tab, Illustrations, and Icons. So for the first KPI, I'm going to be using an icon like dollars. So I will search for currency and select the dollar sign. Make this a bit smaller to fit in the box and change the fill to white. I will go ahead and add icons to the other KPIs. Now, let's create custom tables for data presentation. I'm going to make cells G2 to J2 for the table headers. Have this cells filled with a darker shade that complements your dashboard color scheme. Change the font color to white, and then I will type in the header, which is top product performance. Make this bold. The data for the table will be added here. For the second table, team sales breakdown, I'm going to match these next cells and follow the same formatting steps as the first table. To save time, I will use the paint format tool right here and give the header the title Team Sales Breakdown. Below the main tables, I will add a section for quarterly performance metrics to display sales and operating profit margin by quarter. So I'm going to have that positioned in row 13 or wherever your space allows, and use a consistent color scheme. To enhance the dashboard appearance, I'm going to insert a logo here to represent the company's logo. Step 2, data analysis. We are going to be preparing the data. So go to your data worksheet. Ensure your data is formatted as a table. If not, press Ctrl T to convert your data range into a table. This will activate the Table Design tab. Click anywhere within the data table, then go to the Insert tab, then Pivot Table. Have the pivot table placed in a new worksheet and click OK. I would have this worksheet renamed to Pivot Table. Drag total sales to the values area to calculate sum of all sales. Next, drag units sold to the values area to calculate the total number of units sold. For price per unit, drag it also to the values area, but change the aggregation from sum to average. And finally, add operating profits to the values area to sum the total profit. Now, creating the top product performance pivot table. We're going to be copying the existing pivot table to make it faster. So click on the first pivot table, press Ctrl A to select the entire pivot table, Ctrl C to copy it, and have the copied pivot table pasted down below here in a new location. In the pivot table field list, drag the existing fields out of the values area. This will clear the pivot table, allowing you to start fresh. Now drag the product type field into the rows area. This will list each product type in the rows of the pivot table. Drag total sales field into the values area. This will sum the total sales for each product type. And drag invoice year into the columns area. Let's now create the team sales breakdown pivot table. So we're going to repeat the earlier process. We're going to be copying this pivot table to create the next one. So press Ctrl A to select the entire pivot table and Ctrl C to copy. Scroll down and press Ctrl V to paste it below. Again, we're going to clear the existing fields. So drag the fields out of the columns, rows, and values to start fresh. To set up the team sales breakdown table, drag sales team field into the rows area. This will list each sales team in the rows of the pivot table. Drag the total sales field into the values area. This will sum the total sales for each sales team. And drag the invoice year field into the columns area. This will display the sales data for each year. Creating the quarterly performance matrix pivot table. Go to the Insert tab and click on Pivot Table. Ensure your data table is selected. And then choose to place the pivot table in the existing worksheet. Then click OK. Drag total sales field into the values area. This will sum the total sales across all periods. Then drag the operating profit margin field into the values area. Click on the drop down for operating profit margin in the values area. Select value field settings and change the aggregation from sum to average. This will calculate the average profit margin. Drag the invoice year field into the rows area and also drag the invoice quarter to the rows area. This will show you the sales and profit margin data by quarter and year. So the pivot table has the data displayed with years as the primary row labels and quarters as the subcategories under each year. Now go to the Design tab in the Pivot Table Tools. Click on Report Layout and select Show in Tabular Form. This will change the pivot table layout to display each year and quarter in a clear tabular format. Still on the Design tab, click on Subtotals and select Do Not Show Subtotals. This removes the subtotal rows that Excel automatically adds, which are not necessary for the charts you'll create later. To simplify chart creation and ensure the data remains dynamic, we're going to link the pivot table data to another area in the worksheet. I will create a new section, perhaps in column G or through to K, where you can link the relevant data. So in the first cell of the new section, I will type in equals and click on the first year in the pivot table. Use Ctrl R to drag the formula across to the right and Ctrl D to drag down the formula, copying the links to the relevant cells for each data point. After linking, you need to double check that all the relevant data, total sales and operating profit margin for each quarter and year has been correctly referenced in your new section. This linked data will be the source for your charts, allowing them to update automatically whenever the pivot table data changes. Now, let's start creating the visuals. So going back to our Dashboard tab, we're going to start with the Product Performance table. We need subheadings here to represent our data, so I'm going to go ahead and have that added to the two tables. Now, we're going to start linking the data into the dashboard from the pivot table. So starting with the product, I will type in my equal sign, go to the pivot table and reference the first product. Select all the cells where the data for the table will be entered. Click Ctrl R to copy to the right and Ctrl D to copy down. The figure we have here is the total, just as you have it on the pivot table, but that's not what we need. What we need is the variance. So we're going to be doing the calculations manually here. So our variance will be the sales figures for 2024 minus the sales figures for the year 2023. Drag that down to cover the rest of the cells and sum it up to get the total. Have the row for the grand total formatted to have it separated from the rest of the data. So you make it bold and choose a separate field. For the variance, let's add conditional formatting to make it easier to view. So select the cells, go to conditional formatting and select data bars. Select any field of your choice. I will go with the green data bar under the gradient field. With that, you have your positive figures shown as green and the negative ones red. Let's go ahead now to start linking the data for the second table. So I'll press Ctrl D again on my keyboard to have the formula copied down. Have these figures replaced with the actual calculation of variance, which is the sales figure for 2024 deducted by the sales figures for 2023. And then copy the formula down. Get the sum total and then have the grand total section formatted just like this one. I would also apply the same conditional formatting. Now let's work on the KPIs. I'm going to have a separate text box inserted inside each of the boxes for the figures. Have it duplicated for the other boxes by simply copying and pasting. And do a bit of formatting to all at once by removing the fill and outline. Now what you want to do is to link the figures from the pivot tables to your KPI boards, but it can't be linked directly. For example, if you go to the formula bar, click on the equal sign, then go to your pivot table tab and select the figure for total sales. You see that we get this error. So to have it linked successfully without errors, we're going to have to do some manual work. So with the equal sign in the formula bar, click on the pivot table, then manually type in the exact cell you want to reference. So the first KPI is total sum, which is in cell A4. So I will have A4 typed in here and press enter. For units sold, click on the text box you created, type in equals, then get the cell reference for units sold, which is C4. Go ahead and do the same for the other KPIs. Now let's have this formatted to make it stand out. Now for the quarterly performance matrix, we're going to create a custom chart. So go to the pivot table tab. So we're going to be creating a custom chart using this linked table and not the pivot table itself. So right under the insert tab, click on the insert combo chart and select any of the charts you like. So I will have this chart copied and pasted in the dashboard. Adjust the chart size and have it positioned well in the dashboard. So I'm going to have the name of this legend entry changed to the appropriate one. So right click on it, select data. For series 1, I will have it changed to sales, and series 2 to operating margin. Then click OK. Remove the chart title because we already have a title up here. So click on this plus button and uncheck the box for chart title. We have these zeros shown down here because of what we have here. We don't want that. We want to make our chart neat and tidy. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the zeros on the two sides, and now it's been removed. Have all the axes formatted by right-clicking on each one and selecting Format Axis. And make it black for more visibility and make it bold. For this axis, to have more space created in our charts, we can decide to have the decimals removed by clicking on the drop-down arrow for number and have the decimal places changed to 0. Also make the text black and make it bold to make it visible. Remember to have the grid lines removed, so I'll click on the plus sign again and remove grid lines. All of this will make it look more visually appealing. Finally, let's make the dashboard dynamic with slicers. So go to the pivot table tab, select on any pivot table, click on the pivot table analyze tab, then insert slicer. Choose the region field to create a slicer that allows users to filter data by region and click OK. If you want to add additional filters such as year and quarter, repeat the process and select the invoice year field and invoice quarter field. Have this changed to 2 columns. Now, we need to have these slicers linked to all pivot tables. So click on one of the slicers and go to Report Connections under the Slicer tab. Then check the boxes next to all the pivot tables you want to link to this slicer. This ensures that when a user makes a selection in the slicer, all relevant tables and charts update accordingly. Repeat this process for the other 2 charts. Now let's move the slicers to the dashboard by simply copying and pasting. Have the slicers properly positioned on the left side of the dashboard. Then choose a slicer style that matches with the theme of the dashboard, like this one. Now let's test the slicers interactivity. Make a selection of any of the slicers and see how both tables, KPIs, and charts update automatically. And there you have it. If you found this tutorial helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more tutorials like this. If you have any questions or need further clarification, please feel free to drop a comment below and I'll be happy to help. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.